Hi, I'm Bill Walker. I'm joined today by the management team of Trimark U.S. Companies Fund, lead portfolio manager Jim Young and co-manager Ashley Misquitta. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Jim, I know you focus on some key themes in Trimark U.S. Companies Fund. Can you walk us through some of those?
Sure, Bill. Although we are primarily driven by selection of individual companies, we are aware of and we look for emerging themes because it's always a little easier to make money if you have a bit of a tailwind behind you in the sense of the industry you're in. And so some of the key themes that we see these days, the emergence of the mobile internet, clearly smartphones and tablets are designed to allow us to have continuous connectivity to the internet. And tremendous amount of wealth being driven as a result of that. Drug discovery, the process is accelerating these days after a number of years of patent expiry issues for large pharma and biotech companies. And so that acceleration will make these companies far more interesting in terms of rising sales and earnings. Number of other themes, the rise of the global middle class, tremendous opportunity for multinationals. They're now not just doing business in North America and Europe, they're very active in South America, throughout Eastern Europe, and of course all of Asia. And tremendous numbers of people in these regions that are becoming middle class citizens and have the discretionary funds to be very important to these companies. We've also gotten to the point where we're beginning to see energy self-sufficiency in the United States as a result of the tremendous amount of gas that's been discovered based on technological advances. And that in turn is allowing manufacturers to return to the United States because they have a very cheap source of energy for production. So lots going on, and on top of that we've also finally got a housing recovery in the United States, which is very important to domestic activity and job creation because a lot of jobs created in the construction industry. So lots going on in the United States right now, a very positive environment, and it's surprising that people seem to be missing some of these developments because there seems to be this continual focus on the negatives rather than the positives.
Now, Ashley, I wanted to tap into your expertise here and get you to give us some key examples of businesses you like within these themes.
Sure. UPS is one that I would think of as an example. It has many of the characteristics that we've noticed over the years are found in high quality businesses, very good businesses. So if you look at the industry, it's an attractive place to be. There's a small number of players and the barriers to entry are very high. So what I mean by that is it would take an enormous amount of money, of time, and technical understanding and know-how to recreate a UPS. It's a competitive industry, but they're not in cutthroat competition, so it's rational competition, perhaps. It's a well-run business. So there are a few things that lead you to conclude that. So this business is all about execution. It's about getting the right product to the right place at the right time. And the management team has put in place the systems, invested in the technology, and made the capital investments that enable them to do that successfully. You look at their returns on invested capital, they're at attractive levels. You have a peer that's very similar, and you can look at them between each other and get some proxy for how the management is performing. Whereas UPS has a higher level of unionization, and you would typically expect that to be associated with higher costs and perhaps less labor flexibility, they actually have better metrics on margins, on returns on invested capital, and various other dynamics. Finally, it plays into the theme of a rising middle class in emerging markets and the growth of e-commerce. So that's one. Another one I would highlight is Qualcomm. They play into the dynamic of mobile computing, of these technology developments. From a high barrier to entry perspective, they're another great example because they have one part of their business that is exclusively involved in licensing wireless radio technology. So basically, the chips that are in your cell phones that the 3G chips, the 4G chips, they collect basically a toll on every one of those that get sold. And the barriers to entry are so high that it would almost be impossible to replicate that business. And that's something that we like. And the management team does a very good job. So they have invested aggressively and appropriately in order to develop this technological advantage and this intellectual property. Their return metrics on return on invested capital, margins, those types of things are solid. We like that. They're aggressive about returning capital to shareholders. They're shareholders themselves, and our interests are aligned with theirs in many cases. And we've seen solid return of capital from these sort of businesses. So from a thematic, management, and business perspective, both I think are interesting examples.
Gentlemen, great information. Thank you.
Thank you very much.